like I was saying, the topic from today is sustainability sourcing. The name is quite clear what it's about, but let me surely give you the agenda overview. And then we're going to make this short introduction like normally we do. We're going to explain briefly what is sustainable sourcing and what is the origin of it, the climate emergency, briefly, the ESG classification, what is exactly in the sourcing area, what is the benefits, why it needs to be addressed from the top management to the local buyer in a holistic approach, how to analyze briefly the supply chain in terms of sustainability, and yes, from my point of view, finally, the potential have some software tools that can help you to analyze your supply chain. The second part of today is a little bit special. I brought an expert from sustainable sourcing. I will introduce him later on, and he will make his presentation about his point of view and experience. And finally, we'll make a roundtable of questions. Okay. So let me shortly introduce myself. Most of you know me, but the ones who don't know me, my name is Miguel Brines. I'm a bachelor degree in industrial electronics engineering and a master degree in operations management by ESADE Business School. I have professional experience in purchasing departments from around 20 years in automotive industry in such a big companies like Continental or Bosal or Benteler. I have proficiency in 5 languages, French, German, English, and native Spanish and Catalan, and I've been working in projects around the world. I'm a specialist in change management and disruptive thinking, and have a lot of experience in starting departments from scratch. Finally, I'm expert in negotiations and I'm professor in purchasing in the EIE Business School since 2016. And I apologize for making a little bit of promotion for my book. I wrote a book from supplier selection, evaluation, and risk management. And I take every single opportunity of these webinars to thank my ex-bosses and the people and colleagues as well, the people who brought me here where I am, especially Maya Garcia, Don Luby, David Vidal, Robert Schneider, and Gaston Vidal. Thank you all for letting me be the expert I am now. And let's go to the topic of sustainability. Let's start with the webinar. I think we all are aware of the word sustainability. We have heard this from all kind of documentation, news, and so on. We are all aware of what is the environment, climate change, and so on. But let me give you the explanation from the United Nations, given in 1987. It's a long time ago that started to talk about sustainable development. And sustainable development is the one that needs that meets the needs from the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That means that we are in this world for some time being. In this time being, we need to produce, generate economy, growth, in a way that we use the resources and we give them back to the nature. And for our children, when they have to do the same, they will be able to do it the same we did. So that is the basic knowledge explanation that is sustainable. Why is sustainable a topic from today? Because it is a topic from today and it's going to be more and more from the future. We have a climate emergency. I'm not going to explain too much about that because we all know, we all read the news every day. I'm just going to briefly let you understand what is the emergency. We have a biodiversity emergency. We are in a massive extinction of a species, and it's generated by the abuse of farm and abuse of emissions and pollution that is altering the phosphorus and nitrogen cycles in the earth. So these are the critical questions at the moment, but let me introduce you what is the areas of sustainability from the United Nations. United Nations defines 17 areas of work as a global sustainability approach. We're going to talk about no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry and infrastructure, reduce inequalities in the world, make sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption, climate actions, protect life below water and protect life on land, peace and justice and have strong institutions to protect it. And 17 is the partnership for the goals. We should be united to achieve this. That's very positive, and this is the way the United Nations defines the area of work. You know, there's been a lot of activities from the Paris to Copenhagen to Kyoto agreements, and but to be more pragmatical, let me show you how it's classified. Anything you're going to read about sustainability or sustainable sourcing, it's going to be based on three areas of work, which are environmental, social, and ethical, and governance. What does it mean? In these you can see in the screen the 17 areas of work of the United Nations can be classified as affecting the environmental, social, like inequalities, gender, or hunger, things like that. And governance is the way we handle the world, is the way we govern or we lead our companies on in this case, but it could be also governments and all kind of things. And you can see that this is they call it the triple bottom line, and you can see that the most value added are between both environmental and social, governance and environmental, etc. So any kind of information you read about sustainability is going to be in these three working areas, also called ESG and triple bottom line. Okay, so but let's go to the sourcing part of it. What is exactly sustainable sourcing? Sustainable sourcing consists of taking into account social and environmental factors together with financial factors in purchasing decisions. That means that for the ones that work in purchasing, and you know that we make sourcing committees to select, nominate suppliers, and we take into considerations quality, logistics, performance, whatever. There are also many more aspects that can be taken into consideration, like, for example, ethical labor wages or recyclable materials used in the production of components. So that is a couple of simple examples. So more and more the companies are aware of the emergency, the climate emergency, and other sustainable topics. And most of them are introducing as well these topics into sustainability in sourcing. But let's be more specific about that. Let's speak about which areas of work. I think it's an internal interesting topic to say that we are more and more considering what is called the value for money. That means that that we should be aware of the price and the cost of the things if they were produced in a way that they were fulfilling all the steps, considering environmental, ethical, and so on. So no, it's not going to be all this tendency we had in the past to cost and cost reductions and everything. In certain ways, we need to see that things are much more expensive than we think. But also another topic that is into discussion, and I think is very interesting and not in other areas, is the complete cycle of the products. So we in sourcing, we not only consider the cost of the product, but the cost of developing, the cost of using certain recyclable materials, or even the cost of the recycling after the usage. How are we going to transport it? How are we going to pay for a company to scrap it, or how are we going to do with the product? So also the environmental aspects in the life cycle, like I said, materials or even the way we produce, and sustainable or recycled materials as well, like I said. But last but not least, there are also important aspects such as the poverty, inequality, distribution of resources, working conditions, human rights, and fair trade that should be taken into consideration, like, for example, not paying the minimum wage, but the ethical wage in the country, or just considering other kind of equality and conditions of work. No? I will surely introduce the topics of the profit. What is the benefit of it? Because you might think, okay, if I have to pay more for a product, it will give me a payback, no? So I will surely introduce this. I'm sure that the colleague in the conference will explain it better. But the benefits are, of course, long-term efficiency savings. Once you start to analyze and once you start to see the cost of things, I'm sure that it can be combined, the efficiency with environmental, social, and everything. But we should think also about the effective, efficient use of natural resources. We should also think that we're taking an advantage because we're going to signal the market with sustainable products. And one of the things that most I think it's really, really interesting is this innovation. We are encouraging innovation because we are forcing the companies to think different, to find an alternative, to start thinking what is the real cost of this, what is that. And once you start innovation, it all comes in different areas. It's not going to be only in sustainability, but you're going to get advantage of that for sure. So also you are promoting you are passing this sustainability commitment to the world. That means that you can take the lead on this one as well. And finally, the topics of impact of hazardous substances and the harmful effects of pollution, CO2, that we will explain later on. Okay, so this is the brief explanation. What is the sustainable sourcing and why we should use it? This, I like the topic from this slide. I would like to explain a little bit briefly what is this, the title of it, from top management to the buyer, and always with a holistic approach. What does it mean? It's clear, and it's clear to me from my experience in the past that any kind of policies, because if you want to work in sustainability, you need to make policies in your companies or in your sourcing departments. Any kind of corporate social or these activities, they need to have the support from the management because of many reasons I'm going to explain you later, but things only work when the management is involved. And you're going to need investments, you're going to need approvals, quick reactions to the topics. So you need to be aligned one-to-one with your management. But not only about the management, we need to align as well with the buyers. And when I say the buyers, I say everybody in the company, because they are the ones that are in contact with suppliers. And it's like very simple. Your buyers are people trained to speak with suppliers in a cost financial mindset. It could be different if they also speak the same language to you, like you in the sustainability. If they understand the things of sustainability, they understand the things the suppliers are saying and try to see with a different point of view. And that's the important thing, that people, and they're going to be the ones that make proposals, they're going to make activities. And finally, the holistic approach, I said that before, but it's really important that we're not going to talk only about the labor costs of the people in certain countries. We're going to talk about starting with new materials or new products. And I'm sure that you are all aware of examples in your private life. So this is the same applied to the companies. So for this change of culture, mindset, we really need to have a global approach, from the supply chain to the transparency, to the carbon emission, to the product development. Everybody needs to be involved in this one. So just briefly summarizing why the management needs to be driving this, because they are the authority and respected actors. Because sustainability requires a long-term vision and risk management. Very important thing. If you don't, I'm very strong on this comment, but if you don't believe that sustainability is a new thing, just do it for the risk, because it's really a risk avoiding thing. The risk of having an emergency on topics on the environmental, ethical, labor equality, whatever is going to be the problem in your company or your panel of suppliers. The management is needed to make a change of culture in the company. There are some certain long-term, middle, and short decisions to be taken quickly, and that's why you need the management to support you. Policies need to be done, and policies only work when they're signed from the management. And some actions in purchasing may require investment. For example, you want to buy certain transportation with a specific less CO2 reduction, but you need to invest on that one. So you need the approval from your management. And you know it's going to be in 3 years, payback, 2 years, whatever. And finally, purchasing cannot guide certain activities due to the lack of knowledge. I'm sure you will come to your people in development and say, hey, my supplier is suggesting these materials, but you are not a final expert in and decision taking in some materials. Your engineering need to be aligned and need to be faster, quicker than the suppliers need to be. Okay. So you will think, okay, very nice, very positive, but how can I do my supply chain analysis on sustainability? Very simple. You need to make make it in 3 phases. The first phase is like you choose the goals that you want to work with and your own targets as a company and a sourcing. That means that it's very clear that we all want a better world. We all want to fulfill the 17 goals, but some companies, some sectors are more in danger in certain topics than others, whether it's going to be ethical, whether it's going to be environmental. You know where is your weak points and what are your risks. So the second phase is you start a holistic approach in the product, by processes, and also cross-functional activities. So that means that you're going to define from the product design, the sourcing activity, how do you produce the product afterwards, if you distribute it to the customer, and what is going to be the expected end of life. And then you define also the, like I said, cross-functional activities, like, for example, transparency and traceability. These are the two main topics that affect the whole company. And it's really important, two of them, in this sustainability, because you need to know in your supply chain on the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, on the different levels that you buy, you need to find information easily and to understand any risk, not only about sustainability, but this is a typical risk management thing. And finally, traceability, it's important because if there's anything that you need to modify or affect, you need to know which products, and you need to quickly understand if your suppliers are doing what they are expected to do. So we have chosen the goals, we have defined the approach, and in this approach, we define certain actions, certain activities. For example, we're going to make a thinner packaging. Okay, that reduces the emissions from the manufacturing, that simplifies the product, but also give us some efficiencies. So how to deal with information on the action plan? You can see in the picture, this is the same ESG classification with different names. For an easy to understand, governance here is called profitability, environmental is environmental, and social is also the local economies and well-being. So what does it mean? That for every of the 3 areas, for everyone, you need to understand and classify the actions and give them a punctuation. Profitability is quite simple. Profitability, you will say, I will get a reduction of 10%, I will get an improvement in efficiency in my factory. That's kind of the things, or I can even get more satisfy my workers or get a better relation with the suppliers. No? So that could be easy to classify, but it comes a little bit more difficult, but you need to have a clear vision when it comes to the environment and when it comes to social. You need to classify from 1 to 10 the importance of the action, the impact, let's say the impact in your company, whether it's going to be a high impact and so on. And then you can evaluate a 4 or let's say a 3 criteria, which could be the easiness of implementation. What does it mean? I can evaluate the thickness of the packaging is going to be 10%, but it's easy to implement. That means that is what is called a transformational activity. That means that it's going to quickly change the company. So these kind of things you need to understand in the matrix. And for this purpose, I put here 2 differentiations. It's a little bit complicated to explain. I will try to make it briefly, but you classify your companies normally in from business value to social environmental value. That means that there's all kind of companies, all kind of businesses, more oriented in profitability or more oriented in non-profitability, like NGOs. No? The typical example is a financial company with a aggressive market, and the typical example on the other side is an NGO to change the world. So why do I do this classification? Because in the end, you will have a matrix, an action plan, potential activities, easiness of implementation, not so easy. So you need to see what is a priority for your company. And I don't say that you don't do all these actions. What I'm saying is that you will start with the most oriented to your strategies in the company. So you need to always align with the strategy of your company, because that will make it easier. Don't forget the other actions, but start with the priorities that are easier and more aligned with your company. And the rest is history. Just make a roadmap, prioritization, and create your own sustainability index in sourcing and in your company, and try to see how much time it needs to be achieved, how you're going to do it, and make regular meetings like you will do with risk management or other things. And I would like to finish my part of the webinar with a explanation of what kind of tools or softwares are helpful for making this analysis, like I said before. Because we all know that once you start to make something different, you start to categorization or analysis in your company, you need to do data mining and supplier contracts. So that's also a lot of work, administrative work. There are in the market certain softwares that will help you to do that. And for example, there are some softwares that make you categorization on country risk. That means that the ESG is evaluated in sustainability terms in worldwide. So you can access quickly to these evaluation models. Like you say, for example, I want to work with this country for a new country, and I want to understand what are the risks that I'm facing in terms of sustainability. No? Or for example, in the same models, you can get an easy classification on countries based on the anti-money laundering, for example, or other topics that are anti-bribery or things like that. That it means that it doesn't mean that these countries are used to do that. It means that it's easier to get into these problems when you're working with certain countries. No, no more than that. Okay, the next topic is the one of the most used tool is the self-assessment questionnaires. That means that you're going to contact your company, your suppliers, and ask them, can you please fulfill these requirements? And in these requirements, you will put all the 17 topics probably, or the most important ones for your sector and company. And you will ask the supplier to self-evaluate. And there are some, I know a couple of them. There are some websites where you can easily download these self-questionnaires. There are web portals. We all have, I guess in 2021, we all have web portals to communicate with our suppliers. And I'm sure that your web portals can quickly integrate these self-assessments and try to evaluate them in a reporting or to understand what are the risks in your company. But there are also another kind of tools that are supplier audit programs and corrective actions. They are very famous for the quality and other concepts that are required, or certifications as well, that require yearly certifications or regular classifications. No? But it can also be, and some of them are developed only for sustainability. And the last two, but not least, are very important tools. That is, for example, there are some models on the cost class evaluation that evaluate your total life cycle cost. For example, from the acquisition, transport, operational cost, disposal to residual value. They can give you, for example, if you're working in Germany, that will be the cost from transport to a local waste, and there will be the cost of recycling this product from other components. And this is very interesting, like I said, in the sourcing committee, so when you're going to take decisions on sourcing. Finally, there are some databases, more and more. Currently, there are some famous, well-known companies that have strong databases, and they classify the sustainability in their companies. They say that you're going to work with certain supplier, you can make a consultation. How much sustainable is this supplier? There are more and more in the market, these kind of tools. So this is the basic introduction to the sustainability in sourcing.